Welcome my friends to today's video where we'll be building a website with HTML and CSS, and more specifically the website we'll be building is a Linktree clone. It looks absolutely cash money. It's a website that is known globally and it's actually pretty easy to program, which makes it a great entry-level project. This video is completely beginner friendly, so you need absolutely no prior experience, and by the end of the video you will feel confident developing your very own websites with HTML and CSS. You can build crazy stuff, and this tutorial will show you exactly how, including how to deploy them to the internet so that you can share the links with absolutely everyone. If at any point you get a little bit stuck, there's a resource sheet for HTML and CSS, a set of summary notes linked in the description down below, along with a whole lot of other stuff. And as always, if you enjoy the video, smash the like and subscribe buttons, and with that said, let's get started. Alright, it is now time to dive into the code. And we're going to start off inside of our Visual Studio Code editor. If you don't have it installed on your device, you can find a link for the installation in the description down below, along with a link to the GitHub repository if you would like to compare your code with mine at any point. With a new window of Visual Studio Code open, we will hit open right here, and we're going to navigate to our project directory and create a new file called Linktr.ee, and we'll go ahead and open that up, and we can confirm that it's open because we can see the project directory name just up here inside of our Explorer. Now the Explorer is where we can manage all of our files, and for this project we will need two such files and a folder. So we'll go ahead and create an index.html, a styles.css, and lastly a folder called public that's going to hold some assets for us, some images. Now the index.html, if you have Visual Studio Code, you can quickly initialize some boilerplate code by typing in the exclamation key. Once again, if you don't have that, you can check out the GitHub repo for the boilerplate code. And this file is going to contain all of our page contents, everything that's going to show up in our application, in addition to some stuff for importing fonts and icon sets and so forth. The styles sheet is where we're going to do all of our styling to make sure that our application looks absolutely stunning. With that all done, we can come in here and just change the title to linktree.james. And we are going to boot up our application in a local development mode by downloading an extension called Live Server. Now, you can access Live Server just from the Extensions tab, type in Live Server, and install this local development server inside of your Visual Studio Code. Equally, you could just drag and drop the index.html file onto a Chrome browser and that would load it as well. But the advantage of Live Server is that we can just go right click, hit open with Live Server, and that will then boot up our application in a browser window just here. And we can see the title has updated and we are running on our local host port 5501. If your port is different, that doesn't matter. All that matters is that when we come into the body of our document and type James, that it shows up on our screen, which it does. Now, the first thing we're going to do is start off adding some HTML to our HTML document, and that is going to begin with Google Fonts. So we're just going to head over to Google Fonts. You can Google it, or once again, link is in the description down below. And for this tutorial, we're going to be using Poppins. So if you type in Poppins into the search, that font will show up for you, and then you should be able to come down and add every single font variant right here. I've already done it. You can see I have them all just in here. And likewise, we're going to do the same with Open Sans. So you can go ahead and type in Open Sans. Select that, select all of the variants available in here, and then we can hit this View Selected Families button, confirm that all of our fonts have indeed been added, and if we continue to scroll, we see a section that says Use on the Web. If we scroll down, we want the link tag, and then we've got this whole big link tag, and we're just going to hit the Copy button on that. Come back over to our document, and we're going to store it inside of the head tags. This is the opening head tag and the closing head tags, just underneath the title, and paste that right in there. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the way an HTML document works, We basically specify the doc type, we wrap everything inside of some HTML tags specifying the language. That stuff's not really important. The magic really happens in the head and body tags. The head tags contain all of the meta information about our page, such as the fonts we're importing, the titles, all of that good stuff. Typically it's stuff that we don't see visually appear on the page. As you might have noticed, none of this is visual on our page. As for the body tags contain all the visual content, so that's everything that we can see. Now, the other link tag we're just going to copy is Font Awesome 6.0 CDN. Once again, linked in the description down below. If we just come up to this first link and we are going to copy this first link tag right here, the very first one. Copy the link tag and likewise paste that underneath our Google Fonts, just right there. This is going to allow us to use the Font Awesome icon set, which is just a brilliant icon set, and it really will make your website pop. So now if we come back to our application, we can see that the fonts haven't updated. And we do that inside of our styles.css. The first thing we'll do in here is we'll use the asterisk key to select absolutely every HTML tag, every piece of content we have in our document. And we're going to give it the font family of Open Sans. With a backup of sans serif, we're going to give it a default margin of 0, a padding of 0, and a box sizing of border box. After that, we're going to select the H1, H2, and H3 tags, in addition to a class called Poppins, differentiating the class because it starts off with the period before the name of the class. And in here, we're just going to specify a font family of Poppins, once again with a backup of sans serif. Now, they still haven't updated in our document, and the last thing we have to do is, while still in the head tags, we have to create a new link with the relationship type of style sheet, and we have to provide an H reference to it, and that's just going to be the name of the document, and that is a self-closing link. Now, if we save that, we see that all of the default padding and margin has disappeared, and our font has now updated to be Open Sans. So that's some great config all done. Now it's time to add some content to our page. This is going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to start off with a div that will have a class of background image. After that, we're going to have our header. This is going to have an image of us, so we're going to come back and add the source for that image shortly. The alt is going to be the description of the image, and that's just going to say profile picky. That's a self-closing tag. After that, we're going to have an H1, which is the largest header text. And this is going to say welcome to, inside of this, we're going to have a mark tag that's going to highlight some text. James MacArthur's, or whatever your name is. And then after the closing mark tag, we're going to have link site, and then a little smiley face. And then underneath that, we're going to have a paragraph that says, see what I am up to. Beneath that, we're going to have the main of our document. Now, the main is where the main portion of our content will show up, and that's going to be all of our links. So in here, we're going to create an anchor tag, which creates an anchor link to another site. So we use these to link to our Instagram or our other profiles, as Linktree often does. And inside of this anchor tag, we're going to have a div that has a class of link background. We're going to have a paragraph that has the name of the social media link. And then we're just going to have an icon. And for the icons, we can just come over to fontawesome.com. We can head over to the icon section. And in here, we can just look up Instagram. And that will find us a nice Instagram icon, just like we have here. If we go ahead and copy this code snippet, we can paste it directly inside of that link. Now, we'll obviously have more links and we will add them shortly, but let's just see what our document looks like. Obviously, it doesn't look so hot flash. The first thing we note is that the profile picture is completely absent. So why don't we go ahead and add that now? I'm just going to use my LinkedIn photo, so I'm going to save that image, and we're going to save it to the project directory inside of the public folder, and I'm just going to call it profile. You can just copy and paste any image of your choice into here. We can see I have public and profile.jpg. So the first thing we're going to do is the image, specify the link to the image. So that's going to be ./public./profile.jpg. Coming back over, we see that handsome face. That's obviously way too large, but we'll attend to that in a second. Everything else seems to be showing up, which is amazing, and that just means that we can go ahead and start styling our document. Coming back over to our styles.css sheet, the first thing we're going to style after our text is the body of our document. Remember, this is the container for all the visual content in our page. In here, we're going to set a page color to white, a position to relative, a display of flex, a flex direction of column. We're going to justify the content center, have a gap of 42 pixels, a padding of 40 pixels vertically and 14 pixels horizontally, a minimum height of 100% of the view height, an overflow Y of scroll, and that should just about do it. Now we can see we've added some padding to our document. Obviously it's not very responsive, and a lot of our text has changed color. We can resolve that by coming back up to this div here, this background image. And in here, we're going to have a secondary image. We're not going to save this one to our local device. We're just going to copy a link that I have from the internet. You'll just want to copy this link from the GitHub repository. This is going to have an alt of background image, and that is going to be a self-closing tag. Here we can see the image show up the top. Obviously that's not where we want it. We want it to be a background image, but we can change that with styling. The next thing we can actually target is indeed the background image. So we're going to select this div right here and its class, and we use a period in front of the class to select it for styling. And this is going to have a position of fixed, a top of 0, a left of 0, a width of 100% of the view width, a height of 100% of the view height, a display of flex, a flex direction of column, and a Z index of -2, which is going to layer the content in and out of the page. So now we can see the image is in the background and it stays put, which is just as we want it. The next thing we're going to target is the actual image within the background image class. And we can sub-select the image by first stating the name of the class or the container element, specifying that, and then the image tag, which will target that image specifically and not our profile image. This is going to have a width of 100%, a height of 100%, and an object fit of cover, so that there's essentially no white space in our background. After that, we can go ahead and target the header of our document. The header will have a display of flex, a flex direction of column, will have a text align of center, and will have a gap of 14 pixels. Now what I'm actually going to do is copy out the flex and flex column, because we can apply that to the header and the main. They're both going to have that flex display. And that's just going to save us from repeating a whole lot of code. We can actually also add it to the .background image, which means that we can remove those lines just there, and additionally select the .background image. And I think we can even do it with the body of our document. So we'll just add the body up here as well. Body. Now all of them have a flex and flex column styling. Already our page has actually become responsive, which is super cool. The image is resizing. Obviously it's way too large, but we're making some good progress. After the header, we have to target the header image. So this is not going to be the background image. It's going to be the image within the header, which is our profile image, just this one right here. This is going to have a maximum width of 140 pixels, a width of 100%, a margin of 0 and auto so that it self-centers, a border radius of 100%, which will make it perfectly circular, and a padding bottom of 8 pixels. That's just going to push it apart a little bit. After that, we can target the header mark. So this is the highlighted text. This is going to have a border radius of 4 pixels, a padding of 2 pixels vertically and 4 pixels horizontally, a background of white, and a color that's going to be a hex code of 0F172A. Now we can see that show up there. It got rid of the yellow mark, and this just looks infinitely better. After the mark, we can target the H1 text within the header. This is going to have a font size of 0.8 EM and a font weight of 400, which is normal, so that's going to drop that font size quite significantly. And after that, we can target the paragraph tag, and this is going to have a font size of 0.9 EM and a font weight of 700. So that's actually going to be the bold text, and this is more of a small title. But this is where we want to draw the user's attention to. Now, we've already given our main section a display of flex, so now all we have to do is separate the elements, and that's going to be by giving the gap of 14, and that's going to separate all of our links. With that done, we can target the link itself. So we're just going to have to add that class to our anchor tag. Here's the link. And now we can go ahead and give it some styles. It's going to have a position of relative, a display of flex. This one's going to have an align item center. The flex direction is row, which is the default, which is why we have not specified it. We're going to justify the content space between, so it's at either end. It will have a padding of 8 pixels vertically and 14 pixels horizontally. We'll give it a border of 1 pixel solid, hash 334155. We'll give it a border radius of 8 pixels, a width of 420 pixels, a max width of 100%, a margin of 0 and auto so that it self-centers itself horizontally, a transition duration of 200 milliseconds, we'll see why in a second, and finally a cursor pointer so that when we hover over it we get a pointer cursor. It's the little click cursor. Now the reason we added the transition duration is so that we can add a hover effect to it. So on hover, we want to set the border color to be sky blue. Now it's going to have a 200 millisecond transition, just like that, so that looks super cool. But obviously Instagram should be at the far end, and the reason it's pushed it to the center is because we currently have an image tag that is being, a background div that's being disobedient. So we're going to style that next. We're going to select the div with the class link background, and in here we're going to give this a position of absolute. That's going to take it out of the natural flow of the document, and you can see now there's only 2 relative containers in here, the icon, which you can't quite see, I guess, but it's on the far side. If you're coding along, you will have it there. We're going to give this element an inset of 0 so that it spreads itself out to all corners of the parent container. It's important that the link has a position of relative so that this absolute positioned div is absolute with respect to the parent, not some distant parent. After that, we're going to give it a background of hash 020617. If we just do that, we can see it blocks out absolutely everything. We can also see it also cuts off the border. So in here, what I'm going to do in the link is I'm going to set the overflow to hidden. Now we no longer have the border edge cut off. But the other thing we want to do is add an opacity so that it's ever so slightly transparent. We'll set it to 0.6, and it will just make it so that it's slightly more of a mirror glassy effect. We can just see the background. We'll also have to set the Z index to -1 so that it sits behind the text. And now we have a nice looking link just there. The other thing we'll do is we'll set the link paragraph size, the text size, So that's just going to have a font size of 0.8 EM. With that done, we can go ahead and add an href to this link and also a target equals underscore blank. This ensures that all links open up in a new tab, and inside of the href you just want to add a link to your Instagram. I think mine is just here, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And so if I save that and now click on my link, we can see it opens up the link to my Instagram. We can see that the text color has changed for our link, so we'll just make sure that we set the color to white. It's still white, and we don't want any text decoration, so we're just going to set the text decoration to none, and it looks like I have to set it in the actual link, not on the paragraph. So that just removes all of the underline and any special text decoration for the link. Now we can go ahead and duplicate this link tag a couple of times. The next one is going to be Facebook. We'll also want to update the FA Instagram to say Facebook. After that, we'll have maybe Twitter. We'll change this one to say Twitter. And finally, we're going to have LinkedIn. And this is just going to say LinkedIn. So if we go ahead and save that, we can see we have all our links here. I'll move this across. It's a pretty tidy looking application. If I make it bigger, it looks good too. And likewise, if I come down to a mobile device size, it works as well, which is, just as we'd want it to be. It's super responsive and it looks great. The one thing we're yet to do is we're going to add some media queries so that as we move up to a bigger screen size, our application continues to look cash money. We can do that in our style sheet by coming down to the bottom and adding what's known as a media query. Here we specify the breakpoint, so we're going to set a minimum width of 640 pixels for these styles to be applied. We just have a few styles to have in here. The first one's going to be the body, where we set a gap to 64 pixels. That's just going to push everything a bit further apart on a larger screen. So we can probably see that come into play. As I jump up there, we can see the links just get pushed down a bit further. I'll also change the padding from, let's see what it is currently. It's a 40 pixels and a 14 pixels. And I might take it up to an 80 pixels and keep the horizontal padding the same. So now when we bump it up, we can see everything gets pushed down a little bit. The next one on the list is the header. We're just going to bump the gap up in the header to 24 pixels. After that, we have the main section, which is actually going to have the same gap, so we can just add main in there as well. That's just going to spread out some of our links. So once again, we come up, our links just get a bit more space. The next one we'll change is the header image, so the image within the header. This max width is going to go up to 200 pixels, and the padding bottom is going to go to 24 pixels, so that's a little bit bigger. After that, we have the header 1 inside of the header, so that's the main header text, and that's just going to have a font size of 1 EM and a font weight of 400. Then we'll have the header and the paragraph. That's going to have a font size of 1.1 EM and a font weight of 700. And finally, we're going to have the link paragraph text. That will just have a font size of 1.1 EM. So now we can see on a bigger screen, it gets quite a lot larger. And then when we jump down, it's more concise and better for a mobile device. But it's just really good to make sure that your applications are responsive, as we have demonstrated here. Now, obviously, these links currently all go to my Instagram. Do not forget to change these links out to whatever is relevant for you. I would probably add in a YouTube one. You could experiment with changing some of the hover colors and just, adding some different links. Maybe vary the background color of this little mark here, so on and so forth. But now it is time to deploy our project to the internet so it's live. We have a link, we can add it to our portfolio and all that good stuff. To do that, we'll head over to a site called Netlify. This will be linked in the description down below. We'll hit login. You might need to create an account. I like to log in with GitHub, but that's just my personal preference. And once we're logged in, we are going to hit add a new site and then deploy manually. This is going to have a drag and drop window where we're going to come back over to our Visual Studio Code editor. We're going to right click and hit reveal in Finder or in the folder display that's relevant for your operating system. Here we can see I have the folder right there, and we're going to drag and drop this entire folder onto the drag and drop window right here. Looks like I might have to do it again, drag and drop. That's not being very friendly, so I guess I'm just going to custom upload it. And we're going to upload all 4 files. While that's uploading, make sure that you do not refresh the page. And as soon as that's done, we have the site deployed here. We can hit open production deploy and we have our live website. Now this is obviously a pretty tragic URL. We can see right here what the current URL is. It is cute meloma corona dash some random stuff. We can go ahead and come over to domain management, and then where we have this domain right here, we can edit the site name to be whatever your name could be. So I could just have, you know, jamesiscool.netlify.app. I can then save that. And now the new link that we can share with everybody is jamesiscool.netlify.app. You could add this to your Instagram bio or whatever bio you want to add your Linktree to, equally a web portfolio. And then obviously you'll have all your links to your different social medias and all that good stuff. And just like that, we have officially built, coded, deployed, designed, developed, and launched our own website. Hopefully this process has helped you guys see how easy it can be to develop really cool websites. You know, once again, Linktree is a global website. Everybody has one, and now you could make your own custom one if you want. You can make it infinitely cooler too. This is just one example of how it can be done. As always, if you have enjoyed the video, smash the like and subscribe buttons. Appreciate that support, and thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. Learning to code? If so, be sure to check out the Small James web development roadmap. Link is in the description down below, or dive straight in with these videos.